everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Sunday. Hopefully you guys are doing well, enjoying the first couple days of July. Hopefully you guys have good weather wherever you are. I'm excited to talk to you guys all about the overview for the astrology of July. We're going to be digging in deep and looking at some of the biggest themes this month. I've got a lot of hot topics for you guys. So just to kind of pepper in the big ones that I think are rather significant this month. Obviously, an intense cardinal cross is going to be forming the second half of July, featuring Pluto and Capricorn square the nodes, where collectively everybody is taking a step forward and making some really big changes in our lives. These changes feel uncomfortable, right? There's no real way of candy coating it. It is about kind of stepping into the unknown, challenging things. And we're also seeing the nodes that are going to be changing signs. So once we see that happen closer to mid-month, the North Node, the South Node, and Pluto all are going to hit that magical 29-degree mark, which is going to be about the need to change and transform something in order to move forward. Like I said, the nodes are changing signs, which is rather significant. We only see that roughly about every 18 months. And so this is really about the destiny, the direction of our destiny is changing collectively because we all respond to the moon's nodes. So we've had now for the last year and a half, the North Node in Taurus, the South Node in Scorpio. So I'm thrilled to announce to all of the cardinal signs, you guys are kind of the ones accepting the torch now. Some of these fixed signs are going to get a little bit of a break. So if you happen to have any cardinal placement around 25 to 29 degrees, so that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, you are going to be impacted by this the most. It will be very intense at the end of July, so just a heads up for everybody. I'll show you guys some of the configurations and why that is all tied to a very potent new moon in Cancer, which will also be featuring some oppositions to Pluto. And from that new moon forward into early August, we are feeling the pressure of that cardinal cross. And we know that cardinal signs like to stay busy, so it's pushing all of us to almost like ignite certain areas in our chart and bringing in or ushering in, I guess I should say, this new North Node in Aries. And with the North Node moving into Aries for the next year and a half, we're going to really be focusing on Mars transits. They're going to be rather important. So if you're just getting used to learning astrology, or if you're starting to track planets, know that while that North Node is in Aries, because Mars is the ruling planet, things that are going on with Mars transits are going to be kind of ringing true to that North Node in Aries. And we're going to see some significant ones right off the bat. Also, the South Node, the counterpart, right, is going to be moving into Libra. So we're going to see that there is a more embracing more of that North Node in Aries. We're more active. We are more courageous. We're thinking more about our needs. We're listening to our instincts, and we're initiating something. With the South Node in Libra, we're observing, noticing, remembering, reconnecting, or letting go of relationships. It may be imbalances in relationships. It can be about people pleasing. It can be about giving too much to others. But by the same token, we can definitely see opportunities to reconnect with past relationships and soulmates. So that is a really significant theme with the South Node in Libra. No, it does not mean that all relationships are doomed. It just means that we are up for a reevaluation of our relationships. And the North Node in Aries teaches us that when we are in alignment with our true selves, it's only then we can meet other people halfway. So strong relationships, committed relationships can definitely make it through this time. We may find some significant breakups and separations of partners and pairs and collaborations, though, out in the world. And I definitely think that it can be more challenging to find diplomacy. Also, speaking of romance and finding it difficult to find diplomacy, Venus is going to be going retrograde the second half of July. That's going to be in the sign of Leo. It will be going retrograde from 28 degrees all the way back to 12 degrees. So if you have any placements in Leo, sun, moon, or rising, in particular within those degrees, this might be a little bit more impactful for you, as well as if you happen to be a Taurus or a Libra-based chart, because Venus is your ruling sign, which means we get a handful more of squares to Uranus and squares to Jupiter. We're going to see several of them taking place throughout this month. You guys are familiar with that because you've been feeling that this last week or so. Does any of this sound like fun? All right, well, if it does, it sounds like it'll at least be colorful. It'll be exciting to see what kind of plays out. But I want to be able to now do the deep dive and show you guys some of the most important aspects. Just as a reminder, if you guys like my content, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. Liking this video is really helpful, as well as making sure you're subscribed. Some of you guys have said you've noticed you're unsubscribed, so check the button below. If you are not subscribed, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Any interaction with the channel is really helpful. It helps the channel grow and get this content out to other people who could benefit from this astrological know-how to better kind of plan the month ahead. Equally, if you guys are wanting to know more about the energies of July, especially on a more personal level, keep in mind this is a general forecast, so I really recommend going to my channel, checking out the July 2023 horoscopes for each of the 12 rising signs. They're long, they're like 4 or 5 hours long, and you guys can go and see how this is impacting your rising, your sun, and your moon sign. And just a couple of features for this month also. Many of you guys know I've been expanding, really working on expanding my business in this last year beyond just working on the content for YouTube. I've been adding products to my online store. In 2022, we actually created our very first astrological calendar. If you guys are looking for one, we've got one on sale on my website, both a printed and a digital version. But I'm really excited to announce that we're going to be dropping candles. So back, in 2017, 2018, when I was living in Los Angeles, I was making candles as a part of my business. I really love doing that. I love intention candles and any herbal or apothecary work, something that is one of my favorite things. So I'm excited to be announcing this new candle collection. It is now on sale on my website, so if you guys are looking for some high quality intention candles that are all natural, check it out. We've got a whole collection of 9 different candles, including new and full moon intention candles. You guys can head over to my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com and you can click products. Also, if you guys would like, while you're there, please sign up for my newsletter. I really only send stuff out when we are going to be having sales or having new courses. So it's not that often that we're sending emails. But if you want to stay up to date on my newest products or courses or coupon codes, make sure that you guys sign up for my newsletter while you're there. And if you're curious about what's going to be going down with the Venus retrograde, I do have a Venus retrograde webinar for sale on my website. It is a 3-hour-long playback with lots of extras and PDFs for election dates and much more. I have yet to put out a Venus retrograde video. I'm kind of putting something together, but we will talk a little bit about some of the aspects today. And I do have a Venus in Leo video that we've already put on the channel. And I'm also offering Venus retrograde reports. I only have a select few slots left. So if you guys want to get a personalized audio report delivered to your email, and you want to know how it's going to be impacting your chart in particular, you guys can sign up for that on my website. Okay. Thank you for letting me do my shameless plugs. I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and start off with first just talking about some of the ingresses this month. So some of the bigger ingresses is we are going to see Mars moving into Virgo, and that is going to be important because it'll be happening the same month that the North Node, which is ruled by Mars, will be moving into Aries. So we're going to be taking a look at that ingress. On the 22nd of the month, we are going to see the Sun enter into Leo, so it's going to be moving into its ruling sign. And then on the 28th of the month, we are going to see Mercury entering into the sign of Virgo, where it is at home in its home sign. Okay, so those are the 3 big ingresses that we're going to see this month. In terms of planets, I'll give you guys the dates for the nodes and all that. as well as 2 separate lunations. So just in a couple days here, we're actually coming into the full moon energy. We're going to have a full moon in Capricorn, which will be taking place at 11 degrees. I did a video on that. I really like the aspects. I mean, it's one of the better full moons that we've seen thus far. A trine to Jupiter, which is really expansive. A sextile also to Saturn, which is encouraging us to really focus on our dreams and to continue to keep building and making things stronger and better. And yeah, I really love the aspects with this full moon. And then on the 17th of the month, we're going to see a new moon in Cancer, and that's going to be at 24 degrees. And that will be rather intense because you will see from the 17th clear into the beginning of August that the cardinal squares are setting up. We're going to see a sun opposition to Pluto and planets that are going to square the nodes. So that is more a new moon that is going to be catapulting all of us into change. It may feel a little scary. It may feel a little crisis oriented. It might be overwhelming, especially within the realm of making changes emotionally or changes with our jobs or with our home dynamics. And the pressure is on because we're going to see the moon squaring its own nodes. So just a word to the wise, be mindful revolving around that new moon. It is going to be quite active, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Some of these transits, I know they have passed, but I just want to remind you guys that since the 1st, we have had the Sun and Mercury in very close proximity in the sign of Cancer. So if you guys caught that the last couple days, you saw the Sun-Mercury Cazimi, which we had, and that's where Mercury was in conjunction to the Sun. Now, specifically, it was at 9 degrees, but it's still kind of hanging out here, even at the beginning of July. So the 1st and going even into the 2nd, that's still kind of hanging on. And then as we get into the 2nd, we are starting to see Mercury still in a slight sextile to Jupiter. So it is still bringing in this positivity, this optimism. And then on the 2nd, we're going to see the very first Venus square Uranus. Okay, so this will be at 21 degrees. If you guys saw my Venus in Leo video, I talk about how there's going to be 3 separate squares to Uranus, which is creating friction for Venus. It is encouraging us to shake things up a little bit. I have seen nothing but drama in relationships this week. I got to be honest with you. Definitely because Venus is about relationships and social kind of patterns. That square to Uranus has us all feeling like we need to break out and we need a change of pace, or we need changes in our relationships or how we're dressing, or our preferences are changing. So some of us are kind of getting a little restless with this square. And because Venus will retrograde the second half of July, we will actually see both in its retrograde and its direct motion 3 separate squares. So to put it very simply, for those of you guys who are kind of just still kind of getting the swing of the astrological language, there are 3 phases to retrogrades, okay? The shadow, the retrograde, and then the post-shadow. During both shadow periods, the planet is direct, so it's moving forward. But likely when we have retrogrades, there is a reversal of some kind. So with a Venus retrograde, we're going to have a reevaluation or reversals with love, relationships, money, resources, personal values. In the sign of Leo, it is dramatic. We're going to see a lot of drama in Hollywood. We're going to see a lot of drama revolving younger people, the markets, anything that's ruled by Leo, essentially. And on top of that, we're going to see it square both with Uranus and Jupiter 3 separate times, which means it's going to make things like suddenly shift or pivot or suddenly expand, and then the after effects of some of these things that are going on. So pay attention to what's going on the 2nd when you guys are watching this, because to be honest with you, whatever is taking place roundabout yesterday, today, or tomorrow with this square is going to give you an indication of what you're working through during the Venus retrograde, pretty much, the end of July until the end of September. We're going to see Venus is actually going to stay in Leo until the beginning of October. And I want to remind everybody that when Venus leaves, Leo, she will come into an opposition with Saturn, and she will be debilitated because she's going to be in Virgo. She doesn't do as well in a mercurial sign. So that leads me to believe that there can be a lot of back and forth all summer long. Back and forth like summer love drama, back and forth with, side hustles and trying to make more money, and lots of creativity and lots of surprises and excitement. And at the very least, like I said, it's going to be entertaining. You want to also pay attention to the storyline here where Mars and Venus are moving closely together, so they're very passionate. And Mars has also recently been in squares with Uranus. So there was like this sense of like blow-ups and then the after effect. And Venus is going to go retrograde and kind of try to clean up the mess, I think, and try to make the misconnections or misunderstandings a little bit better. But whatever is playing out, you're going to see it happen probably several different times. So that's going to take us to the 3rd of July. And on the 3rd is when we are going to have that big, beautiful full moon in Capricorn. And I'm sure all of my Capricorns are stoked to hear that. It's actually a really great full moon, really for all of the signs. I mean, yes, the earth and the water signs are really benefiting because of all of these beautiful sextiles and trines that are taking place. But for the most part, when the moon is in a harmonious aspect, generally overall, we kind of see that people do a little bit better emotionally, right? Because full moons are this like climax in regards to things that are finally getting wrapped up, that can be from as long as like 6 months ago when we had the new moon in Capricorn at the end of, I believe it was at the end of 2022. I'm not sure, I have to go back and look at it, but Capricorn season of last year when we had a new moon, we were planting these seeds. Yes, we do find that there is more emotional kind of work to be done when the moon is in Capricorn. It's definitely not the easiest place to have it, but I really can't complain about a lot of these aspects. The only thing that's really kind of still causing problems is that Venus square Uranus. So we still kind of see some of the emotional, financial relationship rumbles that are still going on here. And this is a full moon that is going to definitely kick everybody's butt post, okay? So I feel like this is a full moon that might just, she's just gonna keep giving for about 24 to 48 hours, because we're gonna see the moon first then come into an opposition with the sun. That is the full moon climax. Then the moon will oppose Mercury, so there's a sense of trying to figure out how to relay this information. And then we are going to see the moon come into conjunction with Pluto and then square the node. So just forewarning, okay? The 3rd through the 5th, this is definitely some pretty dynamic energy. The moon Pluto is going to be like the icing on the cake, I think. In the midst of that, though, sextiles to Neptune, so we can focus on our dreams, trines to Uranus, so we can pivot and we can make changes, but still, nevertheless, this particular Moon-Pluto conjunction square the nodes is going to give us a small taste of what's going to be coming at the end of the month when we start to see the nodes change signs. So just fair warning on some of this stuff. I want to take you guys to the 6th, where we're going to see Mercury in Cancer. And Mercury is going to be forming a sextile to Uranus. And I like this aspect because it does make me feel like there's room to talk about our emotions and actually make physical change. It's like, oh, you don't like this? This doesn't feel good? What are we going to do about it, right? Taurus is very practical. It's very, okay, get to the point. Let's just find the steps forward. Let's make it happen. Let's just kind of come up with the game plan. Like, let's get going. And Mercury can be about organizing and putting things together. And in a water sign, especially in Cancer, it's about, making sense or trying to kind of communicate or express what's going on emotionally. Mercury's pulling further away from the sun, although it still is combust, so we might feel like we're just really emotional with that conjunction that's going to be lasting the first couple of days of July. But Mercury is the mind and the messenger, and Uranus is about change and freedom. So I could definitely see a lot of people having lots of conversations revolving around what are we changing at home, and where are these new summer schedules, and where do we need to be, and what shifts are we making in terms of, our work schedule, our eating schedule, our travel schedule. And when these two kind of sync up together, like we can actually create physical change to better support ourselves emotionally. And news may come very quickly. News may come to us also very intuitively. Then on the 9th, we're going to see Mercury in Cancer come into a trine with Neptune in Pisces. All right. Right here. And trines are free-flowing energy. This to me is like less about action. It's going to be more about intuition. It's going to be more about dreams. And you might actually pick this up a little bit earlier on the 8th. Yeah, the 8th, 7th or the 8th. When the moon is in conjunction to Neptune and it's trining, pay attention to dreams and symbols in regards to that. You guys might be feeling like you're, receiving some kind of download or some kind of information. You're trying to make sense of it. And collectively, when that moon Neptune is in conjunction, we find that we're either going to be kind of going off the deep end, emotionally, mentally, right? Or we're like really taking that time to make sure that we're doing something with our downtime, making sure that we are resting, we're meditating, we are reflecting, we're journaling, right? Anything that's going to be helping us kind of tune into that Neptunian energy. Otherwise, there can be a sense of undoing. And I could definitely see some mental, emotional undoing with these trines if we're not mindful of the fact that it's kind of in the skies. And everybody, I think, is also just going to be a little bit more open to communicating and discussing what is on their mind. At the same time, we're starting to see Mercury coming into that opposition with Pluto as well. So there can be a sense of mind games or mental manipulation or people afraid to communicate or talk about something or speaking out about something. There can be themes in regards to that. And information that may potentially be very sensitive and intentionally want to kind of be held back. And I definitely think we're going to see some of that, especially as the moon is going deeper into the sign of Aries on the 9th and the 10th. Now, when we get to the 10th of the month, we're going to be seeing Mercury in Cancer make its opposition. It will be at 29 degrees. So be mindful that intense communication, spying, things that are being relayed, things that are, kind of being put out there. This is a kind of read between the lines period as well, because you might notice that there are subliminal kind of messages that are kind of coming through people or various sources. We may feel intimidated or overwhelmed when it comes to sharing what's on our mind. And I'm wondering if this is also going to be about privacy, things in regards to, privacy, especially like within our home, and the powers in regards to government or political structures, and spying within like appliances and things like that. I think we might hear something to that tune. Same day, we're going to see then Mercury is going to move into Leo. And when it does, it immediately comes into a square with the north and the south node. So it represents on the 10th, there's this thing, I need to speak up, I need to say something, because Mercury square the nodes is saying that we must speak loudly and proudly, especially in the sign of Leo. So it's like, say what's on your heart, like what are you feeling? What do you feel like you need to share? And it may be loud, right? Also, this very same day, we're going to see Mars move into the sign of Virgo. So it'll be there for about 6 weeks. Mars is moving through a mercurial sign that is really devoted to healing and organizing and being of service and care and perfecting. So when you put Mars, which wants to have a goal, into the sign, it is a wonderful time to get back to taking care of your physical health, getting active with a routine, committing to that routine equally. If you're needing to check in with healthcare providers, if you're needing to speak with specialists, if you're needing to finally create that to-do list and start checking stuff off, this is a wonderful period to do this. I love that Mars is immediately going to trine the North Node. So it's just basically saying, like, it's bringing attention to taking action that's going to allow us to have more physical stability. I think for a lot of us, it's going to be about, having a better wherewithal to like take action financially in regards to sticking to budgets, or maybe some of us are trying to find new ways to save money. So we're kind of saying, hey, we're cutting out these bad habits of having the takeout. We're going to be prepping food. Maybe we're going to be more mindful also of what we're consuming, how much we're consuming, and whether or not we're factoring in a little bit more movement into our daily routines. Now, the challenge here is that, when planets hit 0 degrees, it's the purest form. So you're kind of just getting started. And I do feel like while the Mars trine the North Node is positive, and it does require some action, some of us may get a little disgruntled as Mars comes into an opposition with Saturn. Equally, Mars is about cutting and slashing and removing things. So I do believe that as Mars goes through the sign of Virgo and it becomes, it starts coming into an opposition both with Saturn as well as Neptune, we are going to see throughout this transit that there is probably going to be more massive layoffs in corporate companies. I do think we're going to hear more about layoffs in regards to the service industry. So hotels, restaurants, any service industry in general. I think we're going to hear about lower production numbers and the fact that people are needing to cut back. This might also be in regards to healthcare workers, gig workers, things of that nature. And the Mars-Saturn opposition is kind of heavy because it's going to represent feeling limited and questioning, especially with Saturn retrograde, whether or not we can cut through the fog or whether or not we can cut the bad habits. For a lot of people, I think it's going to be being like, I'm no longer drinking alcohol, because Saturn is actually in a sign that's associated with alcohol. And some, people becoming aware of the fact that, overindulgence and kind of like not paying attention to boundaries actually creates some physical health issues. I think also when we see Mars come into opposition with Neptune, although that's going to be, another video, that's also a lot of like, what am I sacrificing for more clarity? Keep in mind, guys, like this summer, we're going to have a lot of planets retrograde. Right now, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune is retrograde, but soon Venus is going to join the mix, and we're also going to see, I think, like 7 planets that may be totally, completely retrograde by the end of summer at some point. So things might feel like they're slowing down. Like we're going to feel like things are really, moving at like a snail's pace. And while planets are retrograde, we have to kind of slow down and do that reworking or, going inward and really focusing on what we can be doing in regards to that area of our life. So speed is not the name of the game. And a lot of us are going to kind of get speed checked when Mars comes into an opposition with Saturn. Okay, so obviously there's a lot going on the 10th. On the 14th is when we're going to see the Sun in Cancer sextile Uranus. So we've got more planetary action here, picking up sextiles from Uranus. The Sun in Cancer is, I think, we're shining a light on like the past, our emotions, our memories, our family, our home. And the sextile to Uranus can talk about physical changes. I do feel like a lot of people are going to be moving with these aspects over the summer. I do feel like a lot of people are making the decision to kind of like, be purchasing land, or they're looking to be sharing spaces with other people, because Uranus is communal. And it may prompt a lot of people either moving or having family come and move with them, or rearranging things and like, rearranging full rooms and moving stuff around, because it is an energy that wants change. Then we're going to see on the 17th, this is also a very busy day. July 17th, so much stuff going on. Okay, so for starters, this will be the new moon in Cancer. Okay, so it'll be around 24 degrees, new moon in Cancer. So those of you guys who are Cancers and those of you guys who are Leos, happy birthday to you guys this month, before I forget. Happy birthday to you. So this will be our new moon. Obviously, final moments of the North and the South node, but we can see pretty much from the 17th on, as the sun starts coming into the square with the nodes, and then the nodes are going to be changing signs, we're going to start to feel the pressure build.
New moons are new opportunities, brand new, times to set intentions, for things that we really want to be working on for the better part of the immediate next month. But some things can take up to 6 months to manifest when we have the full moon that will be in Capricorn season. Now, this is when the sun and the moon come together. And, the moon is the planet that rules Cancer. So there is some sense of needing to be conscious and aware of our emotions and also our past and our homes and our private life and our family, and like really kind of like nesting and getting cozy. Some decent aspects also with this moon as well, even though it is intense in my opinion. I'm looking at the moon being in its own ruling sign. It is sextiling Uranus, so it's also encouraging and promoting, change and like needing to make these physical or financial or changes in regards to our self-esteem to feel better, safe and secure. We're going to pick up some trines to Neptune, which is very psychic, very intuitive. It's about being compassionate. It's about being able to connect to other people and being able to give and be generous. So this is a moon where I think it can be very, very, very instrumental in like opening everybody up and making them emotionally or more psychically aware of their dreams, of their needs, especially when it comes to their home and their private life. But beyond that, I'm looking at this like, intense Sun-Pluto opposition that is coming. And then also squares that will be taking place to the nodes. So this is a new moon that's got some positive energy if you're working with the Taurus area, if you're tapping into Neptune, but beyond that, you're going to feel like the pressure is going to build. Same day, now we see Mercury in the sign of Leo, and it's coming into a square with Jupiter. So it is about exciting news, expansive news, make it bigger, like blow it up, blow it out of proportion, or, big posters or big news in regards to the financial markets. I could see that being a theme, especially because the dispositor of Jupiter is Venus, and Venus is in the same sign. And the stock market does rule Leo. So we're going to hear a lot about markets and betting and gambling. And keep in mind, even though things may run up, that when we have the retrograde, there is likely going to be reversals in some of these things. And lots of shocks and surprises, because there's squares to Jupiter, which grows situations, and then squares to Uranus, which kind of sends it on a bit of a roller coaster. And then we are going to see the North Node and the South Node change. And that's going to be happening hours later. So that'll be happening around the 3 p.m. Central Time. But the North Node will enter into Aries. The South Node will enter into Libra. So if you guys are kind of catching what I'm getting at, a new moon here at 24 degrees, it's only 5 degrees away from a square to the nodes. And then the moon is going to start applying to an opposition with Pluto, which seems a little emotionally overwhelming or unnerving. And then we're going to watch the sun do the same thing. So essentially out in the world, right, second half of July from here on, we're going to see themes of people in power, Sun and Cancer within our homeland, coming into an opposition with Pluto. So this is where we're going to hear more about government surveillance. We're going to hear more about power struggles with a ruler, with a leader. I do think that there is going to be lots of push for somebody to step down. There may be some kind of scandal, because Pluto can represent the shadow world and also crime. It is possible that we hear of somebody in high ranking that, transitions, that they do pass. That is another possibility with the sun in opposition to Pluto. But I see this opposition as like bullying or kind of like threatening, and feeling threatened, especially when it comes to like our home or our emotional security. Now, if we watch these transits very carefully now, and we watch, let's see, take it to the 20th. Yeah, around about here. Now we've got things that are really starting to kind of kick up. So the Sun-Pluto opposition is setting up, which means we've got Pluto that's already in a square to the nodes, by the way. The second that the nodes change signs on the 17th, Pluto is automatically in a square. And that square is going to kind of linger until the nodes get out to about 27 degrees. So just imagine end of July, really all the way through August, like that's going to be in action. And squares to the nodes from an evolutionary standpoint represent skipped steps. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of astrologers talk about that on YouTube, and you're like, what does it mean? Essentially, it means that in order to get to your destination, right, at least your goal for the next 18 months of North Node in Aries, I am more active, I am taking initiative, I am responsible for myself, I'm listening to my gut feelings, I'm starting new things, I'm getting physically fit, maybe, right? It may be that people are learning more about self-defense. It may be that people are thinking more for themselves. It might mean that people are also more combative, more angry, more frustrated. In order to better channel that, Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn is challenging this, saying something needs to die off, right? Something needs to be exposed. It's a retrograde right now. So this is where we're kind of kicking up all the dirt from what's been kind of hiding underneath. You guys are going to hear so much about political scandal. It's like not even funny during this particular period. And I think it's to possibly kind of like light a fire under, you know, the butts of individuals and make people realize just how much crime and manipulation and control and wickedness is being done, especially those who are in charge, right, out in society. That is Pluto in Capricorn. And we're going to see this very day, okay, so the North Node is at 29, Mars is coming into an opposition with Saturn. So here's how this works. Mars is about putting the foot on the gas pedal. Mars in Virgo is like, I want to serve, I want to, we want to help, we want to take care of the animals, we want to take care of people in a hospital waiting room. It's, wanting to make all of the necessary cuts to the diet. It's going out and it's weeding the garden. It's about perfecting things and making things healthy again, and like using those mercurial abilities to sort and sift and kind of determine what is and isn't going to work for health or organization's sake. Because Virgo is striving for perfection. That's really what they're here to kind of help the rest of the zodiac achieve. Saturn, which is about limitations and boundaries and limits and control and organizations. We've got the North Node ruler in opposition to Saturn, and Saturn is the sign that rules Capricorn. So likely we're going to hear some kind of like health news, some news revolving around maybe military, news revolving around health of soldiers, numbers in regards to people who are serving or not serving, their capabilities, in general, health-wise. And I keep using the term health because Virgo is a health-related sign, but this is happening at 6. So it's like doubly Virgo. And the moon is going to go through Virgo at the same time. So likely we're going to hear something about some kind of military mobilization, something around water or oceans, things like that. And with the North Node in Aries, Mars transits do promote conflict, and they do promote sometimes, like tiffs or arguments or fights, or even potential things that could, develop into war. Pisces is peace related, so I do feel like the Saturn-Mars opposition is like people threatening but people backing down. So I don't necessarily think something is going to happen here. To me, this seems like de-escalating or trying to de-escalate, but something coming up in regards to health and health conflicts. Okay, so this is the 20th. And we're also going to see the Sun trine Neptune. So I definitely think we're going to hear something about water and the ocean and news in regards to that. And possibly, with some of these trines that we're starting to pick up with Jupiter now, I think we're going to hear a lot more about like international waters and like, military mobilizations and stuff. Sun trine Neptune is a day where also we feel more in alignment with source. Like we're feeling kind of blissed out and creative, and we're feeling like we can be tapped in and feel inspired. It can kick up, stronger bits of intuitive things as well. So if you're somebody who's into like tarot or astrology or scrying, or if you're wanting to work with a form of divination, this is a wonderful time to potentially do that. But I'm watching all of these planets and placements in late degrees, and when placements are at late degrees, like that's when shift hits the fan. And at the time also Venus is getting ready to station. So this is actually the degree in which she will retrograde back through. And then I'm going to take you guys to the 21st. And this is when the Sun-Pluto opposition hits. So I imagine, a lot of intensity the 17th through the 22nd personally, because from that new moon on, that's when we feel the build. But we've got 29, 29, 29, 29. If you're somebody who's got placements like 27 through 29 degrees of the cardinal signs, okay, these signs, hold on to your shorts. All I can tell you is everybody's going to get affected by this, okay? Even if it's a quick moving couple days, everybody's going to be like, oh, this has to change. Because the feeling of Pluto square the nodes is almost like somebody blows up a bridge, or like a relationship finally definitively ends, or the job finally definitively ends and you retire. It's like there's no going back. It's not physically possible. That's kind of the impact that this is going to have on a lot of people's lives. I'm hoping, and holding space that whatever happens at the end of July are events that make people realize, oh, we're being taken for a ride here, or there are things that are going on in this world that are keeping people from being able to feel like they can survive or thrive. Certainly things in regards to homes, homelessness, people being displaced from their homes, things in regards also to people getting to a point where they're at a boiling point and realizing like, okay, if we're getting to this point where we're feeling like we can't feed ourselves, take care of our families, if we're feeling like we're going paycheck to paycheck and we're feeling this kind of pressure, some of the information that kind of comes out is probably going to infuriate people all that much more. And it's going to be hard with the North Node in Aries not to feel or tap into that inner primal, sometimes like anger, sometimes it's rage. And I'm not encouraging it, but I definitely think that what Aries teaches us is that it's not always rainbows and butterflies, right? This is a Mars-related sign. It means that emotions come if anger or heat or frustration or rage is coming up. It's coming up for a reason. It wants to be recognized. Aries is good about getting that out of their body. That's why most of these really significant Aries placements, or if you have a really strong first house stellium, you know that it's like something has to come out of your mouth, or you have to move that energy out of your body. So it doesn't want to hold on to it. And so I think that really what it's going to teach a lot of us is that if it's coming up, it needs to be dealt with. We're no longer going to sweep it underneath the rug. Emotions do have an impact on our physical body, and we definitely don't want to be just swallowing that and kind of pushing it down, because it can have an impact on all of us physically. And also picking that up from the Mars-Saturn opposition. It's like, where does it affect us actually not saying anything at all? But 29 degrees is a crisis point. And when we see this configuration, I got to tell you guys, it's rare to see something like this. We see the Sun-Pluto opposition every year, but to watch the nodes happen at the same time is like chef's kiss astrology. Part of me likes it, because even though it's kind of like sadistic, but part of me likes it because I'm going to be like, there's going to be things that are going to happen that is going to catapult all of us into, now we have to make the change. But most humans have to wait, obviously, until the crisis strikes in order to make this shift. Now, if it were just Pluto square the nodes and it were at any degree, I would just be saying, look, it's going to pinch for a second, just rip the Band-Aid off. But the fact that it's at 29 degrees and the sun is in an opposition tells me that there will be events in all of our lives at the second half of July that is going to feel like do or die. It's like, in order for me to be able to do this thing, I must make some changes and be willing to move, change my job, confront the powers at bay. I mean, something about this makes me feel like people are finally going to wake up with this square, and they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to be angry, or they're going to be disappointed, because they're going to feel like they've been let down. So if you have the cardinal placements, you're going to feel it stronger. If you don't, it might be just a couple of days where you kind of feel the pinch, but you'll notice things actually shifting in the world, especially because the cardinal signs are the signs that bring us the solstices and the equinoxes. So they quite literally are responsible for representing the change of season. So as soon as these 29s all kind of configure, it's going to be like a record scratch, and people are going to go like, oh, all of these things are changing at one time. Now, when I look at this, Mars is still in opposition to Saturn, so it's going to be as a result of something that was going on the days prior. And Venus is sextile the South Node and about to go retrograde. We'll actually go retrograde later this particular day. At 28 degrees. And when Venus starts her retrograde, she's in conjunction to Lilith. So it's a bit of a sleazy summer, as much as I hate to use that term. Venus is going to be in the mix with several other goddesses. It's going to be with Lilith and also with Juno. So we're going to see this back and forth between commitment or wild freedom, and the squares that it's going to have to Jupiter, Uranus, and that can talk about the impact that it has on some relationships financially, the impact that has on some of us in terms of our emotions and our self-esteem, and whether or not we're just seeking attention for validation, right? Or if we're really needing to kind of let go and break down some of these attention-seeking tendencies. And definitely lots of like threes of crowd energy, because Lilith generally needs another planet to activate her. She's kind of erratic. She moves very quickly. So to see Lilith go in and out of Leo and kind of dance with Venus and then eventually Juno, we're going to see lots of people who are going to have issues in committed relationships. I think we're going to see extramarital affairs, and definitely some drama in Hollywood. That's pretty much expected. If you guys go back and look at the last Venus retrograde in Leo in 2015, ton of people that year split. So yeah, definitely got my eye on some drama when it comes to Hollywood. But also, Leo rules children. And so this is something I talked about briefly in my Venus retrograde. I've kind of put it out there, but a Venus retrograde in the late degrees and a square to Jupiter and Uranus tells me that this is going to be about children in Hollywood, child actors, younger people, and the impact that they have on the banking system. So I think we're going to hear more about some of these entanglements between Epstein and JP Morgan and other people who may have known, and other celebrities that might know, or other people who also might be kind of like speaking out in regards to some of these horrible crimes. Just hearing recently about like Mel Gibson and how he's putting out, I think it's a several part series or a documentary that's quite literally about some of these topics. And you may hear more, celebrities speak out about this as well. All right, so then we go to the Venus retrograde. So Venus will start her retrograde, and the long and short of that is because Venus rules love, beauty, values, appearances, right? It's never really recommended during a Venus retrograde to do like a significant makeover. I think we're gonna see a lot of people make changes to their hair. It might be too quick, too fast because the squares to Uranus. So when you think about like processing and things, people wanting to suddenly go blonde and then frying their hair, or people following some trends in Hollywood and changing their hair. And I would say like slow and steady wins the race. Maybe it's me. I'm a Libra rising, so I'm ruled by Venus. So I'm aware of this trend coming, and I know I'm personally not going to be opting for any significant changes, really until Venus goes into Libra. When Venus goes into Libra and she's back in a sign that's a little bit more comfortable, sure, yeah, I'll make some cosmetic changes, but not until then. So if you are thinking about a cosmetic procedure or surgery or a major haircut or a big tattoo or, a complete closet overhaul, I would rethink that. That's just me personally. For some people, a retrograde can be utilized to go, let me clean out the back of my closet. Let me see what I've got. Or let me, go back to a style that I used to wear. Or let me return some stuff that, I decided I don't like. And we're going to see also some changes going on in our resources, our value systems. I think a lot of people are going to be possibly changing platforms that they work with in regards to banking and trading. I do think that younger people and younger traders are going to have something to say about some of the changes that are going on with some of the financial shifts. And I think we're going to hear a lot more about cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, and NFTs because we have Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus. So I'll just leave it at that. But it's going to be pretty wild, and the retrograde is going to start then. Weddings, engagements, committed relationships, things like that, or going public with committed relationships. During a Venus retrograde, some things may reverse. So just keep that in the back of your mind, that it's not the best time sometimes to be doing these things. But it depends on the chart specifically. I've seen people who have a natal Venus retrograde that can navigate these times a little bit better. Or maybe you're having a Venus retrograde over Jupiter or, over your natal Venus. So it can be a little bit easier. You have to look at the whole chart kind of as a whole. All right, so then I'm going to take you guys to... also this day, on the 23rd, we're going to see Mercury square Uranus, okay? So where we've seen Venus square Uranus, and there was upsets, we saw Mars square Uranus, and there was some frustration. Now we have Mercury, the mind, the messenger, square Uranus. So unexpected news, shocks, surprises, having to move very quickly, the mind trying to keep up. It kind of feels a little staticky. It feels like a little nervous, right? And then on the 25th of the month, we are going to see Pluto and Capricorn square the nodes officially, exactly. So the exact square will start here. This is to the degree and minute. So if you weren't already kind of feeling the heat since like the 17th, you'll be feeling it by the 23rd, and that's the Pluto square the nodes moment. I do feel like this is going to be intense because this particular day we're going to see the moon in Libra, and the moon will conjunct the south node in the early hours, and then it's going to square Pluto. So something happening overnight, the 24th into the 25th. When the moon conjuncts the south node, that'll be the first conjunction that we will have since the nodes will have changed. And the moon is connecting to its own node, and Venus is the ruler, and Venus is retrograde. So what's going to happen? Lots of drama, lots of conflicts in relationships. We're going to start to see the breakdown in relationship happening. And we're watching Venus retrograde coming back into conjunction with Mercury. So changing of our minds, trying to communicate and connect. What do you want? What do you need? How do we better relate? Why did you have that meltdown in the club, right? Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde conjunct Mercury in the 5th. Lots of drama in the club, I would imagine. Oh boy, some spats in casinos, some drama when it comes to, high school related things. Even though if you're in high school, you're watching this, you're out for the summer, but there can definitely be some drama with your summer love. And so the Pluto square the nodes is like that's the moment. That's like, this ain't gonna work anymore. And what's interesting is that the Venus retrograde, when Venus stations, it is quincunx Pluto. So, it is the focal point of a yod, pretty much off and on throughout the retrograde. You're going to see it in the beginning and you're going to see it in the end. Obviously, it takes time to train your eyes to see some of these things, but, the yod is the focal point between two quincunx, or I guess you can call them inconjunctions, and a sextile, which is basically pointing to, hey, do this thing. If you do this thing, then the Pluto in Capricorn, the Neptune in, Pisces is going to seem easier. The way to be able to really kind of tap into reconciling with the problems here is doing this thing. So with Venus retrograde, we reconnect, right? Sometimes we hear from exes. Sometimes we run into them at parties. Sometimes we reevaluate a long lost love. Sometimes we think about whether or not our current relationship is cutting it, or if we want to get back into the dating game and like try to get out there and meet someone. So if you've been feeling like, man, just something's got to change, you know, I've been feeling kind of lonely and isolated, it can be about getting out there, being social, and having fun and learning how to play. Venus in retrograde is going to encourage a lot of us in the sign of Leo to connect to our inner child and learn how to be more expressive and learn how to have fun again, and get out of this Pluto, Neptune funk that's just like, it's a scary world out there, don't go anywhere, do what you're told. And I'm excited to see like the younger people, artists, creatives, and other people start kind of being like, no, we need connection, but we also need to be able to kind of come out and show our talent and, you know, put it out front and center, as a way to kind of combat some of these kind of like murky energies that sextile. All right, so then we're going to see on the 27th, Mercury in Leo will come into connection with Venus retrograde. If there was a time that you were going to ask me like, hey, when do you think I'm going to hear from my ex? This would be the day. Because when Mercury and Venus are in conjunction, it's like mind and heart, you know, and mind and heart don't always go, they don't always go together. There is a sense of like trying to understand each other, and they just quite can't. So Venus is retrograding, okay, past life or south node ruler, coming into conjunction with Mercury, trine the north node. Mercury can be phones, emails, text messages, social media. The sun is the dispositor of all this stuff, and it's also in Leo. So it's like, get ready for everybody's like selfish desires to kick in and people to kind of like reach back and like romanticize. Remember when we were together, we were happy and this and that. And it's like, yeah, I remember, but like you're gonna cause some drama here, or I can't physically make those changes anymore, or I can't actually go back. This can also be a time where I think that people can benefit from going back to old creative projects, old hobbies, and reevaluating the things that you used to do that you really loved. But definitely look for some challenges this particular day. This isn't the only thing I'm looking at. I'm also looking at the moon in Scorpio square and oppose. So this will be the focal point of a moon Uranus opposition. And I think a lot of people are going to get kind of dramatic, kind of little jealous, little possessive. There could definitely be some drama that can get kicked up here on the 27th. I observed this recently with the moon in Scorpio these last couple of days. As soon as the moon went into Scorpio and it squared all this Leo, and it also started opposing Uranus. I happen to have North Node in Aquarius and planets in Scorpio. So I had a grand fixed cross, and I was like in a mood the entire day. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Where's the moon? And then I realized, oh, it's in Scorpio. Of course it is. So you'll see something similar here at the end of July, where you just want to watch for the drama around the 27th and the reevaluation, reconnecting to what is going to make me happy. And you got to keep in mind with this retrograde, be careful, because the grass is not greener, okay? And I can say this because the squares to Jupiter and Uranus is literally where all the grass and the cows are. And it's going to create a bit of a ruckus if you're trying to go into the past. We want to be going more into the future. So we want to be working with the trines to the North Node in Aries, which is, what can I do? Not a person, what can I do? And in doing that, we're also clearing lots of personal relationship karma. We're kind of clearing some of that stuff out. And I think it's going to be reminding us that if it's just not working with that person, right? You're just going round and round and you're just not getting along with that person, or issues in the relationship. Some people are just going to have like this aha moment, and they're going to go, you know what? I can't change this individual. I have to work on myself. Or, you know, this isn't going to change. You know, they want to stay there. I want them to change. I need to be more focused on myself. So I'm going to go in that direction. And it can be an amazing summer for just big personal transformations and like really getting out of a rut or getting out of some of these dysfunctional relationships where we just want to continue to perpetuate the drama and just hoping that we're going to get a better response, right? And then finally, on the 28th, we're going to see Mercury enter in, that will be moving into the sign of Virgo. So to watch Mercury go into its home sign, that's great. So it'll be brief, but now it's further away from the sun, so it's not kind of getting burned up as much. Mercury in the sign of Virgo is great for better communication, better connection, better understanding, better scheduling, and kind of like note keeping. And we've got Mercury and Mars in the same sign. And we're going to start seeing at the end of July going into August, Mars picking up trines to Jupiter, Mercury picking up trines to Jupiter. And that can be an amazing time where we're like, okay, we're actually getting things in order. We're starting to see some of these physical shifts manifest and physically kind of come into place. Yeah, it'll come into a few oppositions with planets in Pisces, but for the most part, I'm digging the trines to Taurus and also to Capricorn. If you happen to be a Mercury-ruled chart, so if you're a Gemini or a Virgo rising, this is good for you because you're going to have your ruling planet going through a sign that's going to be a little bit easier to manage. I do talk about these, I believe, in the horoscope, so you guys can check that out for the 12 rising signs. As always, I'm going to be back giving you guys these videos weekly. We're here every Sunday morning doing astro weather, and we talk about the astrology for the week ahead. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you guys get other videos that's just on other current transits and going a little bit deeper in some of my astro musings. And we also have new and full moon reports. So if you guys are wanting to know how those moons are impacting you, check that out. And hopefully you guys like the content. You know, I really appreciate you guys liking, commenting, and sharing. It's really helpful for this channel's growth. If you like my content and you want to support my work, you can do so by donating, or you can join my memberships. Not many people know that I have several levels to memberships. If you guys would like to join to help me keep putting this work out there and hopefully create more content for you guys in the future. I have a lot of like continuing education videos that I want to make, and I have some other ideas. So the more that this channel grows and the more that I'm able to really transition to doing this full time, we're a two-person team, so it takes a lot of work to put all of this out, but the more we can actually do for you guys. Or you can book a reading with me. So you can check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You can book a personal one-on-one reading with me. I do them live via Zoom, and I have openings in September. And you guys can see my live calendar, or you can purchase a report, which is delivered to your email, generally within 7 to 10 days. Or if you guys don't want to wait, you can join me on Friday. I'm going to be here doing live tarot readings by donation. We're doing 1 and 3 card spread readings. You can join me this Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And come hang out and join the chat. And if you guys want to watch, or if you guys want to get a reading, I'd be happy to do that for you. I'm hoping everybody has a really awesome month ahead. You know, I really worked hard to put a lot of the content that's actually going to be going on this month out already. So if you want to know more about like the North Node going into Aries, the South Node going into Libra, Pluto square the nodes, all of those videos are on my channel. I've been kind of peppering them in the last month or two. I think we did the North Node in Aries last year and the South Node in Libra recently, but the Pluto square the nodes video is actually really helpful, and it's going to give a lot of people a lot of food for thought in regards to what needs to change. I think, in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest aspects that's going to be taking place all month long. So do make sure you check out your horoscopes, because I do touch on that and how it's going to affect you. Especially since Pluto is going to go in and out of these degrees still for about another 1.5 years. So it'll hit 29 degrees several times. But this summer, this end of July, is when we get that swift kick to kind of get the show on the road and start kind of making change happen. So hopefully it's a good month. Leave me your comments. I'd love to hear how you guys are feeling with these energies and what you guys are anticipating and what you're looking forward to, or how this is impacting your chart. And I will see all of you guys back here in August. You guys enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.